People, Deluded, I'm back again. I have a special guest with me. How you doing, man? You good, Mikkel?
I'm good, thanks. How about you?
I'm good. Just like we're speaking off air, I mean, I'm very bored with lockdown. My hair looks a mess, but I've got my health. My loved ones have their health. I can't complain, man. What you been doing?
Yeah, pretty much similar. Just, trying to stay not bored, watching TV shows I've already seen before. Uh, yeah, just standard stuff, really. Need to just stop myself from downloading FM again, which is the main thing.
To be fair, I haven't played football. You know what it is? I always play Football Manager, but since this lockdown, I have not clicked on it. It's really weird. When there's actually time to just play it to my heart's content, I haven't
I
touched
mean,
it.
yeah, and that's the poison it is, though.
It
Like,
might be because I think I'm like Arsenal. I think I'm actually ninth in it. Like, well, I'm in some big trouble. Like, I'm in some real big trouble. You know, when when it comes up and says the fans say you've got one last chance and stuff.
oh
Big
God, yeah.
trouble, man. Big trouble. But yeah, man, I just wanted to really ask you about Arsenal and things. I'm going to ask first and foremost, how are you feeling about Arteta?
It's tough to say so far because there's been the positive side of things, like we're conceding fewer shots, we look a lot more solid. Ultimately, his team selections have been quite strange in places, and it's tough to work out what he wants a lot of the time. And I think it's very much that he's focusing on building us up from the back in terms of improving us. But the lack of creativity has just been very clear, and you can see that there are bones of a plan coming together. It's just how long is it going to take? How good a plan is it? It's tough to know at the moment, but I'm very much happy to give him that kind of time and see what's developing.
Good answer. Let me press you on something you just said. When you say strange lineups, not to put you in it, but what do you actually mean by that?
And constantly putting Aubameyang on the wing is the main one. Um, and when he's had so I got it when he was trying to keep Lacazette in the 11 and and on that side of things. But when he tried it with Nketiah, like I can see what he wants from the Aubameyang role. It's more like the old Walcott one where he basically be a centre forward out on the wing.
Yeah.
But I don't know why he's not given Aubameyang that run in the middle. I don't know why he's not given Martinelli more starts because or when he's not brought him off the bench a bit more. I think the subs more than the lineups have been the weird thing for me. When I think about it, it's been a while. I've not given it an awful lot of thought in a few weeks. But I remember the one that stuck in my mind was Olympiacos when I think it was only until was it the first half of extra time when Lacazette actually came off and he'd been rubbish all evening. Martinelli came on, we created 3 chances. He was there.
Ready.
He was the reason we scored the goal. And you could see that we needed that kind of shift in movement up front for almost an hour in the game, and he's just a bit slow to react so far. But it's his first job. He's learning. And one thing that has encouraged me actually is the way that he's used Ceballos. And I like what he's doing with Xhaka anyway, but the fact that he doesn't see Xhaka Torreira as the way forward, because I always found that too defensive and a bit too stifling. And I'm not a huge fan of Ceballos, and I don't think he'll stay anyway. But I like the idea that you want someone more attacking in that deeper role.
Are you not convinced with Torreira at all then?
Oh, I think he's a really good player. I prefer Xhaka for what I think Arteta wants to do.
Yeah.
And I just see him as a quite defensive player. So Xhaka and Torreira next to each other, I don't think there's enough creativity there. But then you can see we haven't really seen Torreira next to next to Ceballos all that much, I don't think. And it might be that he proves to be back because obviously Torreira is still very good on the ball himself. But personally, I prefer Xhaka. But then obviously he doesn't have much in the way of mobility, and Torreira, hopefully he comes back all right from this ankle thing. But yeah, I'm not saying get rid of him at all. I do quite like him as a player.
I only asked you that because today I actually saw rumours, the same recycled rumours about him wanting to go back to Italy. If Partey came in, would you be happy with if Torreira left and Partey came in? Would you be happy with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm a bit different on that, my guy, man. I think because for me, I wouldn't listen. I love Torreira. I'm one of the diehard Torreira fans. But if he left, I wouldn't cry. My issue is with Torreira. If Torreira's not in the team or what Torreira offers, we don't have that. And the Partey's a different player, but it's going to be the same, no?
I think in terms of what you then want the qualities that he has to take into another team, you want sort of the ability on the ball, which Partey has. The mobility is the main part, and obviously that Partey has. Obviously, I think he's more physical than Torreira just because he's so much taller.
By far.
And obviously so much stronger as well. But I think he's much more bold on the ball as well. Torreira is quite safe, whereas with Partey you see a lot more sort of, I don't want to say inventiveness because I wouldn't consider him a creative player as such because of the way he plays, but you do see a lot more talent on the ball. And I think if you replace Torreira with someone like Thomas, you are upgrading, but you do need to make sure that the qualities that Partey doesn't have, and I don't think he's quite as defensive a player, then you have in the squad, and I think we do. But I don't see any reason why they can't coexist as well.
That's the thing for me, is because if I want the option of Arteta to be able to deploy both of them, you know, as you know yourself, there's games where we probably won't dominate. You can use either or. I really want that. Let me ask you this. In relation to Lucas Torreira, I mean, it's completely different, but I remember Conte got a lot of stick when he said, you know, Kante's a great player, but I want him to offer a bit more. Do you think there's something that could be done with Torreira in that regards, in bringing a bit more of a progressive player out on him?
I'm not sure, you know. I think I know that there is an attacking player there. I think he started out as a 10 as well.
Yeah.
There's ability on the attacking side of things, but he hasn't played there since he was back in Uruguay, I think, or was in Argentina before Samp. But in the same way that like Matic was a 10 when he was at Benfica, and you can't even imagine him playing there now. I don't know how much of that player is still there.
Yeah, it would be pretty negative.
Exactly, but he did make. It was very weird that spell when he was playing basically as a 10 under Emery, but the runs he was finding were pretty good.
Yeah.
So maybe you can get a bit more out of him, and maybe that's what Arteta's trying to do. But because I haven't seen him in that kind of attacking role.
It's hard to
apart from that weird spell under Emery, and I'm not counting that against anyone. So yeah, I'm not saying give up on Torreira at all. Like you might as well try it, and given the whole situation with COVID and like the fact that we're broke anyway, you might as well try and do weird things with what we got and be inventive. Like we did in the no money era with all the kids.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: do you feel what's your feeling on our midfield options, anyways? Because I feel they're quite weak, but I don't want it just to be my opinions.
Yeah. No, I agree. Too defensive and too limited, or in the case of someone like Ozil, old and past his best. Although I still think there is a player there, not the one that we signed, but you know we're locked to him for another year, a year or two now. We might as well try and get the most of him, and there is still ability there, and I think we've seen that a lot more with Arteta. But then in terms of the deeper midfield options, Ceballos is fine, but again, I don't think he's going to stay, and I don't think he's worth what we have to pay to keep him.
Yeah.
But then Xhaka, Torreira, both quite defensive players in the way they play. Guendouzi, I'm not as convinced as most people on him.
Well, yeah, I'm going to ask you on that. What do you think of Guendouzi? Because he polarizes a lot of opinion. Well, every Arsenal player does, too, according to what fan. Yeah. But Matteo, what do you feel?
There's clearly talent there, but I find defensively he's just a shambles. And
very nicely,
his positioning is all over the place. He's very impulsive, and in a way that he always wants to step out. But then, if you're the deepest midfielder in that scenario, then you know
you've got to have
you're leaving the defense entirely exposed. And then him next to Xhaka is like they want to do the same things on the ball, and frankly, Xhaka's better at them. So I never want to see them two play together again. We haven't really seen a lot of Torreira and Guendouzi, but again, like Torreira likes to step out, or if you have him like very much stationed in front of the back four, maybe you give Guendouzi a bit more of that freedom. But a few times when he's come on under Arteta, like I can't remember the game now, but he played him very high up when we were trying to hold on to a lead, and he just pressed, and that kind of cut across the fact that he doesn't really know where to stand, and he doesn't make the right decisions when he's pressing because he didn't have to. All he was doing was applying the pressure from the front, and then he wasn't destabilizing the system. But obviously he's not a 10, and you don't want it to be your most advanced midfielder. I worry with him is that because so much of what's good about his game is it's impulsive. It's all about the feeling he gets, and on the ball, often his instinct is quite good. But I don't know how much you can find the balance between that ability to act on impulse and do the right thing with then becoming a more measured player, because you'd be very different if you were more measured. And I'm not to rule it out, because I just don't know. It's a healthy skepticism, but I don't love watching him at the moment. But I'm not going to cut across and say there's no talent there, because there clearly is. But it's a work in progress.
I agree with everything you said about Torreira, but Guendouzi, sorry, but I'm of the different opinion. I don't know if it's the fact that I love young players, but that sounds so wrong to say, but I do. There's a player in there. You mentioned impulse. I actually think that's a good thing, because you look at a lot of the best players, they've got that in him. I think definitely he needs to be coached. Definitely he's indisciplined, and definitely he's very raw. But I think there's something in there, and at minimum, we can make money off him, surely.
Oh, definitely. And in terms of the impulsive side of things, it's weird, because I love seeing that in a more attacking player. And that the whole that they can surprise you at any point. They'll do things that people aren't expecting. But then if you see that in anyone deeper than a number 8, then I start panicking.
Yeah, it's Suicide,
So
really.
yeah, and I think a lot of it depends on what position you want him to be when he's grown up.
Where do you think his future
And
is in midfield? Like, what specific
I
role do you think
don't know. On the ball, the skill set I see, because he is good at carrying the ball, but I don't think he's good enough to really warrant him being a box-to-box. Ideally, on the ball, you want him first pass out of defence, number 6. But then you bring in the whole defensive aspect, and maybe he is just safer at number 8, and you really want to work on the more attacking side of his game. But there's a lot to do there, because then, again, you said, I was talking before about how all our pairings without Ceballos in them are too defensive, and that includes all of the ones with him. But he reminds me a bit more of post-injury Wilshere in that sense, because in the way that, like, so in 10-11, the thing that always stood out to me about Wilshere was how mature he was, and how he would take the touch, play the ball first time. It wouldn't take him too long to get the ball out of his feet, and he wouldn't try and take on all the responsibility himself. Whereas Guendouzi, it's a good thing that he wants to take responsibility. It's a good thing that he's always trying, that he wants to push forward all the time. But sometimes it's just not necessary. And you need that slower, more measured approach. And again, it's the young player thing. I just worry about him growing out of it.
That's the thing. I feel a bit indifferent. I think people don't give players a chance to learn from mistakes. But at the same time, I think Torreira's obvious. I keep saying Torreira. Guendouzi is evidently old enough to know what he's doing right and wrong. I feel one thing that encourages me is a lot of the things we both share that frustrate us about him is that they can be coached out of his game. I do think there's a player in there if he wants to learn. You said a great point about touches. I believe the best players, specifically midfielders, they take less touches. I think that's definitely something he needs to learn. I like that do you know what it is? I think many Arsenal players over the years have been cowardly. I think for all of his issues, I don't think he lacks that, but I think he needs to rein it in. And when you talk about courage, you can't not speak about Xhaka. So what do you feel about Xhaka? Because it's almost, you mentioned mobility and agility and stuff, and I share a lot of that. But it's like, since Arteta's been in, you're not really seeing these shortcomings or scenarios that exposes that.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. And you've got a player who can't run, then don't make him run. You got a player who's a bit too one-footed, like Xhaka is. You don't make him play onto his right foot as much as you can avoid it. Like he's got his limitations, but there's nothing that can't be protected by a system. Which is what when he was at Gladbach before, that's what they did so well, and that's why he looked like such a great player.
Quality, real quality.
And we've seen that in phases. What I really liked, I don't think we stuck with the 3 at the back under the big man long enough. Like, remember how he played in that spell towards the end of 16-17?
Yeah.
And he just looked like he had that bit more time on the ball. He was picking out his options a bit better. Like, he needs a player around him who's comfortable receiving the ball. He didn't play much next to Santi, and I never loved Santi in central midfield anyway, or at least not in a 4-2-3-1. I just think he didn't. It depended all on the partner. I didn't like the Coquelin-Cazorla partnership at all, but that was mostly about Coquelin, who I never liked.
Oh, you didn't like Coquelin?
Not at all.
Oh man! I'm gonna write that down and carry on, but we gotta speak about that, man.
Oh no, I don't want to open up old wounds. That divided a lot on Twitter back in the day.
That's my guy. He was a poor player, but that was my guy, man.
Exactly. I just couldn't deal with the first pass out of defence being a guy who needed 4 or 5 touches.
Oh yeah, he was definitely trash on the wall, but he's just he's a passion merchant, man.
Oh yeah, and that's what divided me with the rest of them.
Yeah.
But then I felt with so it was mostly about the partnership there. So Santi when he was in central midfield, when Ozil wasn't playing, when it was a flat 4-3-3, I thought it was incredible. That performance against City is the main one, but that sort of when he was the first pass out of defence and he was sort of the first player to evade the press, which he ended up being 4-2-3-1 a lot. But then I thought there was a bit too much for him physically a lot. And people look at the results of the Coquelin-Cazorla, like a lot of the bare stats are okay, and then you look deeper into them. And I remember I remember there being a lot of asterisks, a lot of game that we scraped, a lot of just that weren't that impressive. And then you've also got the fact they needed Ramsey on the right to bail them out anyway, which I thought was a waste of Ramsey. But I'd have to go back into my old articles because I remember going through the game going, that was shite. Like the 2-1 against Reading in the FA Cup semi-final in 15. It was one of their positive results though. It was a 2-1 win in the cup semi-final.
It was a struggle if I remember right.
Oh God, don't! I was not happy that whole game, especially because we started Gibbs and Debuchy. Monreal and Hector playing out of their minds, and just anyway, that's an old thing. But no, so oh God, I got sidetracked there. No, so Xhaka, back to that.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, like I said, these things just go on tangents after a while. But like, what was I saying about Xhaka? How did I get onto Santi?
About Xhaka, you were speaking about Xhaka not really in situations where he sees weaknesses.
Yeah, yeah. So back to that. I thought he was fine in the midfield three. Obviously, everyone remembers that Liverpool game, and I was there for that for some reason.
Mm.
But there was a whole load of other stuff going on as well. You can't just pin it on. Well, Xhaka and Ramsey were probably our worst players on balance, but but yeah, like, but again, as you said, we're seeing not a different Xhaka as such, just one who's a lot more in control of what's going on around him,
More
and
confident, I'd say
often,
as well.
yeah, and especially because he's had the whole rebuilding his relationship with the fans, which I didn't think would happen. I didn't
I
think he
thought it
could.
was over too, man. I
Yeah,
genuinely thought it was done out. He was done out here, but yeah, he's
yeah,
back.
and he seemed really determined to leave as well. It shows how much Arteta's changed things. That like he's probably the first name on the team sheet right
Let
now.
me ask you this quickly. Do you feel he's still open to leaving? Because playing devil's advocate, surely you are. You'd say, okay, I'm going to be professional. Arteta, you've backed me. We do this to the end of the season, but this could happen again under Arsenal fans.
Of course, and I imagine probably part of him is, but I mean, it's tough to say without like no one's briefing anything. There's nothing coming out in the press. Obviously, everyone's got more important things to worry about right now. I think he's just had a kid as well.
Yeah, of course.
So uh, I mean, honestly, I don't think there's any player who isn't open to leaving at any given time.
True that. True that.
And so if you were to offer him Champions League football or even just a decent wage back in Germany, maybe, but also maybe not. It depends how settled he is, how much he's feeling that everything with the fans is fine now. If that's well, it seems to be a big thing for him, but again, we're not on his head.
Let me ask you this: Why do you think Xhaka divides opinion? Because speaking for myself, I think he would be a rotation option. He wouldn't be a starter, but I think he's definitely a better player than given credit for. Do you think he's misunderstood? Do you think we thought we were getting one player and got another? Like, why does he polarize opinion so much?
I think because he's just a bit daft, and he does dumb shit. Like, he obviously in his first season, I think he got 3 red cards, two that I remember really clearly.
Yeah,
and well, I think the Swansea one was bogus, but the one against Burnley when he just went in 2 feet on the player for no reason.
no common sense behind that.
And he does make stupid mistakes, and his concentration is a huge problem for him. Or it has been, and then again, that's what I think the system can compensate for without giving him too much to focus on at once. And then he's also grown up. So I think he's like 26, 27 now. So you're starting to see which these should be his prime years.
Yeah.
But I think the bulk of it is that, yeah, he just does stupid things and gives the ball away in stupid positions sometimes. And he does the Mustafi thing of just making an error at just the stupidest possible point, where you think, how have you done the exact thing that you shouldn't have done in that particular moment? And he's given away quite a few pens as well, I think. So it's people struggle to see past the stupid stuff because the good stuff about him isn't quite as obvious as well. Like it's not like a player who will concede a pen and then go and score 3.
Yeah. What do you feel he does well?
Sorry?
What do you feel he does well?
I think he's very good at sort of not controlling the game, because we've not had control of a game in a long time, but but he's good at keeping the play flowing through midfield. He makes himself available for passes very well. And so he's great for keeping possession, and I think his decision making, again, in the right system on the ball, is very strong. So this sounds like a lot of waffle at the moment, because
no, I agree with everything. It's just I like to hear other people's opinions. I don't want it to feel. I like to get different perspectives and feel that I'm picking this up.
I think his positioning is fine as well. It's when he's running out to the ball that he makes the mistakes, rather than where he's standing in the first place. But his long passing is obviously the main thing. But he finds passes between the lines really well. Like the deepest stats I've seen for him have always been really impressive in terms of, like, what is it, line breaking passes or progressive passing?
They're always changing the name of that stuff every day.
Yeah. But that ability to sorry, there's a fly in here. That ability to
going out to pass.
that ability to progress the ball is something that you really, really need in midfield. It's also something Guendouzi does well, but Xhaka I think does better. But to move the ball from one phase of the pitch to another in very quickly, and it can really change how you approach a game in terms of attacking sense. And that's something I think Torreira doesn't have. And for the good qualities he does have, he can't just put his head up and find a really good pass in the same way.
Do you feel Torreira's a weird one? I mean, not Torreira. Xhaka's a weird one, because I think he's one of the only few midfielders I know that's long-range passing is on another level, but their short-range passing is like, how can you make a 30-yard pass? But like how me and you on this camera, if I'm passing it to you, it gets intercepted. I really don't get that. Really
You can
don't.
you can hit a 5-yard pass out of play, but it'll put a 60-yard one straight on someone's foot.
Yeah, on a sixpence with all the right spin
Yeah.
on it. Yeah, it makes no sense. Like,
I don't get it either.
there's got to be some. I don't know if it's testament to how good he is, or it shows our struggles in that. Credit to him, you know, he's played under a few managers at Arsenal now, and he's always been a regular. The only time he's been out of the team is what you spoke about earlier, the fan stuff. So there's got to be something he offers that we don't necessarily see.
The way that the players reacted to him and the captaincy, I think says a lot. Like, I remember reading quite a bit about how like all the players were on his side. Like, I mean, and they would be in that situation. I was on his side, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that he's really respected in the dressing room. That everyone, like, just everyone loves him, and everyone really respects him. And I think there must just be a lot that we don't see, because I think you can see that there's a leader there. There's someone who's very happy to take initiative and help try and drive the team forward. But I think there's an awful lot that we just can't know in terms of a squad dynamic, or at least it's not clear to us. Then people talk about that with Van Persie as a leader as well, behind the scenes. And obviously everyone knows with Arteta, and now he's our manager. But I think everyone, I remember so much. It might have just been PR at the time saying that Van Persie got involved in so much more stuff with the squad than someone like Cesc did, who obviously took the captaincy off. Yeah. And everyone was people around the club were really glad for that, because they felt like this is much more the captains that we've come to know. So I get maybe there is just a lot of stuff like that, but I can't really say what that stuff is. So.
Right. Do you think in an ideal world, like if I'm really honest, I've got a lot of time for Torreira, Guendouzi in particular, and I actually have a lot of time for Xhaka. But in an ideal world, if we was to be a top 4 team, do you think the options we have are good enough to be a consistent top 4 team? Because I battle with myself saying yes and no a lot of the time.
I think this squad, it's complicated because the current top 4 is so weak. And the league is just in such a state. But we don't know how long that's going to go on. I think Spurs are just going to be weird for a while because of Mourinho. Like, how long it takes us to come together. Chelsea have had a dip. Is that more them finding their level, or is it just a dip? Like, we can't really say on that. I think in terms of the quality in the squad, we should be able to finish in the top 4. But in terms of so let's take it back to what we consider top 4 level a few years ago, back when we were good and we were struggling to get into it. Well, not struggling, but let's say 16, 17, when we didn't finish in it, but we obviously had Alexis, we had Ozil, we had a lot of talent in the squad. So use that as the benchmark. Like, I think every player individually would be fine in the squad. Them as a collection of options for a squad trying to present that
perfect
is just not. There's just something missing. And I mean, to me, in my mind, what's missing is Ramsey. But I understand if a few don't necessarily agree with me so much.
You know what? You put it perfectly there, and you articulated how I'd love to. Is that when you look at them individually, they're not bad players, but collectively, you've got too many average players. They're going to show averageness. Personally, I think we're not dynamic as a team enough, especially in midfield. I think we need the Partey, or you need someone else. I don't think Xhaka is mobile enough to have long-term it for any ambition beyond being a rotation option. So that's a decent point. What do you feel about the striking situation, about Aubameyang and Lacazette? Like, would you force both of them in the team? Would you keep both? Obviously, with the contract stuff at play, how do you feel about that as well?
Well, the contract stuff is the main thing. Like, I wouldn't force both into the team. I think we've just seen that unless we're playing 2 strikers, it doesn't really work. And it's fine. I mean, if you want to play 2 strikers, go ahead and do it. But I don't think that's what Arteta wants to do and how he wants to approach things. So. I don't see the point, honestly. I would, in the event that Aubameyang doesn't want to stay, which I think is probably likely, but then the noise has recently been a bit different. Let's say Aubameyang doesn't sign, I'd get rid of both of them.
Really?
Because
what would be your plan of action then?
I don't know who we'd bring in, but honestly, I think in terms of Martinelli and Nketiah, you've got a decent 2 and 3 options. So you need a number 1. If you can. Swap deals never happen, but if you can get Jovic out of it, then maybe that's how you go about it. Then I think it depends a lot on what you want from the striker. If you want someone more rounded than Aubameyang, maybe he doesn't want Aubameyang there because he's obviously quite a limited front to goal player.
Yeah.
Maybe if he wants a more rounded striker, like, I mean, obviously it's the best example there is, but old school Van Persie. And then that changes also the kind of wingers you go for. But I don't see. Regardless, I would get rid of Lacazette because.
Probably the same, yeah.
I mean, I'm harsh on him on Twitter because it started out as a bit and it's kind of just gone too far. But of refusing to refer to him by name, but I call him number 9 constantly. But I just don't think I think he doesn't offer enough as a lone centre forward.
Mm.
And we saw that even in his first season, in the first half, his best performances would always come when Ramsey was pushing up and he'd be near him. But I just don't think, unless your centre forward is going to sort of provide in that way. Sorry, flying. Unless he's going, unless your centre forward's going to again lay on goals in the way that like Van Persie or even Giroud did, like hold the front line together without much support.
Mm.
Or they're just gonna go the other way about it and be like Aubameyang and just score, and then you make sure that the team around it can compensate for that.
Do everything else.
I think he's too much in the middle of everything, and it's a pity because if he were he's 5'7", I think. If he were 6 foot, he'd be absolutely fine.
Yeah,
because you'd have a slightly more mobile version of Giroud with like he lacks Giroud's physicality, which means that he isn't so good, and his movement as well. But like, that's the main reason I think he's not so good at leading the line. He's too small, and. If you had that, then you'd have, and obviously the biggest frustration factor with Giroud for me was his movement, even though I was a big fan of him. Not his movement, sorry, his mobility.
Yeah.
So if you had a player who's more capable of playing as a lone 9, then I'd say obviously we've got this guy we spent 50 million on, might as well keep him, we'll be fine. But I just don't. I think in that sense as well, we've got to try and build the squad towards something, and he's just a bit of a player who's in between things. And when I say build towards something, I mean a style.
Yeah.
And I don't see what style we can put together with him as a lone centre forward.
You see, for me, I'm a bit different because I think Lacazette, I'm like you on Lacazette. I've definitely not shown any loyalty to him. I've kind of changed. I was pro Lacazette. Now he can go.
Same.
I do think he could fit in the team. I do think his lack of pace is a problem, but I think he could sit in the style. I think his physicality is okay. I think the problem with him is he's lost a yard of pace. And I think actually the concerns as to why we didn't get him for a number of years was he's not a consistently good goal scorer and he doesn't score enough goals. Like he's not 20 league plus. And that's something Wenger had an issue with.
Exactly, and away from home as well, his record is terrible.
Terrible for someone like that as well.
Yeah, it's like he's in his first season. It was bad when things were messy, but I was looking at the breakdown of teams he scored away from home against in the league, and it's just this is months and months ago now, so I can't really remember it. I've got it in a notes file somewhere, but it's
big teams in that. Yeah,
exactly. It's just really. What was the whole stat like? He hasn't scored against a team that didn't go on and get relegated since February 19.
No,
that was when he scored against Huddersfield. So. That was the last time he scored an away league goal in the league, I think. Sorry.
Why do you think he's like that away from home? Like, is it the way teams set up? It's not made for him.
I think this is what I mean about like the approach and sort of when you're at home, you're the more attacking team, so he's more capable of
So going to open that.
I don't know. Of being around. Well, he's not more capable as such. Like, he's got more players around him. We're more progressive. He's not so isolated, so he can peel off and get that little bit of space that. His movement wouldn't otherwise allow him when things are more contained.
Yeah.
And then when we're away from home, there's a lot more individual pressure, I think, especially because we've been so badly set up away from home for so long as well. So we've got a manager we had a manager who went a whole La Liga season without winning an away game. And
what a crook. Man.
Yeah. But then even in the last year under the big man, Mr. Wenger, like we won 3 away games?
Yeah, terrible.
It was terrible. So it's a part of it's systemic, but I actually don't know what his away record was like for Lyon. But like as you said, he's not been a particularly consistent goal scorer. But I don't think he brings other players into play well enough for that. As a lone striker to offset that.
Definitely overstated by fans. Definitely.
Yeah, but even in his last. So my big concern with him when he came from Lyon was the fact that he always played in twos.
Yeah.
And again, if we're not gonna, if we're gonna play 2 strikers, then keep him because he's a very good support striker. You can get so much out of him. Like last year, what was it? He scored like 19 and he got about 10 assists.
No, he does chip in. Yeah. He's not number one.
Or used to at least.
Yeah.
But
down.
but yeah, we were in between then. And, we were playing 2 strikers sometimes. Every now and then we had the Europa League helping with stats every now and then. Like. I overstay onto it, but he isn't a terrible player. I just don't think that he fits what Arteta's trying to do. And I think we've seen that from the way, even when Aubameyang's closer to him in the new Arteta setup on the wing, we don't see enough movement from him as a lone centre forward to open up space.
What do you make of Arteta anyways, as a gaffer?
I mean, I was such a fan of him as a player that I really, really want it to work out. And he says all the right things. He's
up as
the players are clearly convinced. Yeah, he dresses well on the touchline. I like that. It's nice to have a manager who looks presentable again.
A real Arsenal manager, not someone that looks like they just rocked up at halftime. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like I said, I've been confused by some of his selections, by his subs, and I'm still not entirely sure what he wants to do. But if he does what he's talked about, then or at least we take us in that direction, then I'm excited to see where we go.
Who stays and goes for you? Obviously, we know it's not going to be wholesale changes, and what? Nobody leaves. But in an ideal world, who would be your who definitely stays if you had to pick 3 or 4 and definitely goes if anything? It don't have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, obviously, I want Aubameyang to stay. I just don't know I don't know how realistic that is. I think that's the other side of it is that this is the exact thing we said about individually most of these players are fine. But when you get them as a collective, there's just not enough overall quality there. Yeah. It's tough to there aren't many players in the squad that I would apart from Lacazette, I would just say sell.
Really?
Because they've all got some kind of use. I think Kolasinac gets a harsh rap. He's fine. I would probably get rid of him because there's money there and you can just get a different backup left back. But then you probably need someone who's going to play a lot because he's quite injury prone. Tierney's obviously quite injury prone. But yeah, I mean, I'd probably off him. Ozil, you're just not getting rid of. And again, I still think there's a good player there somewhere. Ceballos is going anyway. I mean, I'd like to upgrade on goalkeeper, but it's not a pressing concern.
Yeah, let's talk about that really, really quickly because I'm so happy you said that. I do think fans are a bit weird. They were a bit weird when you questioned Lacazette a year ago. They're a bit weird with Leno. My thoughts on Leno is he's a bloody good shot stopper. There are concerns about sometimes when he saves shots, they're palmed into danger. And for me, bigger than that, the distribution at times puts the team under pressure. I think definitely we can move forward with him. But what's your thoughts on Leno now that you said that?
It's my big issue with him is crosses. He's not got command of his area. He sticks to his line too much. And so the goal that we lost out to with Olympiacos, the fact that he was so rooted to his line was part of the problem. And you see it a lot that he does stick to his line, but his reflexes are excellent and he's improved. So at Leverkusen, to be honest, I was really against signing him. He was considered a joke in the Bundesliga by a lot of people because he would just his concentration was really bad. So he just makes stupid errors in between being an overall decent goalkeeper.
Do you still see that in the game now?
No, not at the moment. But then he hasn't really had the chance for his concentration to be bad because we've been putting him to work so much. But I think he's fine. He's fine for now. My big thing for any goalkeeper is I want them to be able to claim crosses. I don't trust a keeper who stays within the 6-yard box at all. But he's fine for now. I do want to upgrade, but it's not a pressing concern. We've got so much other stuff to worry about, and he's been good for us, and he's been better than I expected. I admit that freely. But yeah, it's something that we have to look at longer term, but it's not something we have to rush to do. I'm still campaigning for justice for Szczesny, but
you gotta let it go, bro. You gotta let it go, man.
Until Arsenal fans give him the love he deserves, I don't think I can.
He was misunderstood, man. He just needed to mature. He was a quality keeper, to be fair.
He did. I don't think it was a mistake to loan him out, or it was just a mistake never to bring him back, especially after the first year when it was clear that Czech wasn't. Well, it was clear in his last year at Chelsea that Czech wasn't really up to it anymore. But yeah, exactly. And they didn't. Well, it was a mistake because I think I just on this level I kind of just miss Ospina because he was so terrible. At least it was funny.
Yeah.
It was because there are some players being bad is I hated him for a long time, and then after a while, it's this guy doesn't know the rules of football.
He's so rubbish. He's funny now.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've lost faith in us being good, so I could just enjoy the bad bits of being funny.
Oh man, another player that polarizes opinion is Bellerin. Now I'm going to give Bellerin some slack. Obviously, he's coming back from his injury, and we don't know the severity of that. But I do think he's in the same boat as Leno in that, there's more pressing areas to look at. But right back is, I do think if his name was Hector Dave or Hector something, not necessarily Spanish, there'd be more question marks on him. And I really love him, but I can't be the only one with some concerns.
Well, he's not been himself since he come back from injury. But it's been quite a quick return as well. Not obviously in time, but he's gone. I don't think he played in the reserves at all. Or if he did, it was only 1 or 2 games. And then we needed him in the 11. And we needed him in the 11 pretty quickly. And there's clearly something a little bit off with him at the moment. But again, he's been rushed back. I want to give him that time. What I think when it comes to players returning mid-season, I always think give them a pre-season, proper rest while fit, and then coming back and eased into it, not rushed in because we need him at any particular point. So I admit, like, I'm a bit worried about him in places, but also, like, if he is a bit slower, then he's gonna have to adapt to it, because he's my age, he's just turned 25. Like, so I mean, he's not exactly going to end his career because he can't run as quickly anymore. But I mean, we've seen a lot of players who come back from ACLs. They've been slightly different physically, and then just changed their game slightly and got better with it. So yeah, so I mean, I'm very much willing to give him time, but there is, like, it might even be that the mobility concern is just something short term that he ends up getting over when he's a bit more fully fit. But yeah, I think it's worth keeping an eye on. But remember how good he was in the half season before he got injured.
Good subjective. He was all right. I
thought that was one of his best runs of form for us.
I still think we're missing that real. You know what? When he was wearing them Nike Vapors and he had short hair, I think we're missing that Bellerin, because away from his injury, my opinion actually isn't with his injury. I'm prepared to give him a season under Arteta. I just feel he just simply hasn't kicked on. He's not improved greatly defensively. He's not really very good going forward. Like, Maitland-Niles is a whole nother subject. But I genuinely believe if Maitland-Niles sat down and stopped being stupid and said, I want to be a right back, Maitland would take that spot. And that's concerned with Bellerin. I don't feel Bellerin's good enough on the right-hand side in a final third. The fullback has to be.
I see that. That's what I think was the big change, to be fair to him, under Emery, was that he was a lot more decisive going forward, and he was making the right decision as well as putting in better crosses.
Yeah.
But I've never had concern for him defensively, to be honest. I think he's
really
fine.
He's never switched on. He's never, because do you know what it is? I was a right back, so sometimes I can see he's not switched on. I think he's been too easy to bully from set pieces. It's been nothing to do with him as well. I just feel he just hasn't kicked on. I love him. He stays for me, but if I keep it 100 and look at everybody, the same energy I'm giving to Leno and Lacazette, I've got to reserve it for Hector Bellerin.
That's fair. So I've always played on the wing, on the left, actually. So
that's why defending isn't a problem for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like looking at a fullback who's a bit flat-footed defensively, I think, all right, yeah, I can live with that. But yeah, thing is, but how many? I think one-on-one he's always been quite strong. Like, I do see the set pieces thing, but I think
I'm not too sure about 1v1, bro. I think his pace saved him, but I'm not too sure about 1v1.
It's true, but then he's had the pace to save him. So say he doesn't have that pace quite as well anymore, then you start to see the problems. But if he's not quite so strong, if going with your one, like, because his pace has bailed him out a lot when he's, like, made a misstep in sort of getting done by a player. Like, the end point is that he's still not giving away a goal, he's not giving away a pen.
Of course.
That we're still stable defensively. So maybe if he is a bit slower now, then he'll get exposed to that, or that he'll just get better at the things that he can't do so well anymore.
All right, let me ask you this, yeah, and he probably is. If you're naming your top 5 right backs in the Premier League, is Hector Bellerin there? Is he there? That's what I'm saying. Is he there? Has he kicked on enough? He should be there. Is he there? You're looking at Trent. You're looking at Bissaka. There's probably a couple from the lower teams in terms of form.
Kyle Walker's probably still there.
Kyle Walker.
Even though I don't like him at all. That's a tough question. And
we rejected 50 million allegedly for him.
Right now, probably not. But I'd say when he got injured, yes, he was.
I'll go with that.
So, yeah, I need to see a list of Premier League right backs. I haven't thought about them in a while. But yeah, so like I said, I want him to have that time, but also, like, I'll admit I'm a bit biased where he's concerned, because I remember
I'm very biased for him. That's why I'm being so harsh on him in this video.
Yeah, I've watched him a lot, and he was one of the him and Gnabry were the ones who, like, I actually bothered watching academy games for whenever they had the next gen stuff. I think Gnabry was there. Hector definitely was.
No, they're the same age.
Because I mean, I've read that they were worth watching. I haven't watched an academy game since then, but like, so yeah, I've got an attack. I've got the 14-15 home shirt with 39 Hector on the back.
Man, he really convinced you.
Yeah, So I've been there since the beginning. So it's tough for me to give up at this stage.
I'd like to ask you my final question. Next 5 years, what does that look like for Arsenal? Obviously, no one could predict this, but I just want to get your thoughts. Like, are we back in the champs? Are we still in this position? Are we worse? Especially with Newcastle's takeover, will they become ahead of us? What's your thoughts on that?
It's going to be a very, very weird time for football, I think. And as you said, like, prediction 5 years anyway is tough. And then at the current moment, it's just, no one knows what's going to happen in 5 days. But I think we're at least being well guided on the on-pitch side of things, I think, with Arteta, and like he's clearly got a good set of ideas, and he has very clear ambition for what he wants the club to do. I'm not convinced at all by Sagnier, and his decision making is a combination of strange and crooked, and his ties with agents get me very worried.
Yeah. Old boys
network,
man.
Yeah, and having a guy like, well, the fact that we've signed Cedric for no particular reason, beyond the fact that he seems to just, because he's represented by Mendes or Kia.
Yeah,
like that worries me. And then we've obviously got the Cronkies, so, and they're not exactly the
that's a whole
ideal owners, to put it mildly. I mean, it's best I don't speak when it comes to them.
Yeah.
But so it's tough. It depends. If you're giving the people who can make those decisions and make them well that kind of authority, then it doesn't really matter who the owners are, because as long as they're not asset stripping the club, then we can get around how useless they are. And the fact that it's a lot of it's in Sagnier's hands worries me.
Trust me.
There are basically, like, in terms of Mislintat signings, I don't like most of them, but I prefer the idea of his approach and what that might mean going forward than what we're getting from Sagnier. So it's pick your poison in that respect, but
winging it.
Yeah, and I don't know, but I'm hoping that essentially enough of the direction comes from the people who know what they're on about and know what they want and have a very clear ambition of what they want the club to be, rather than an agent's plaything, that we can then really make something of ourselves again, at least become established top four. Because I miss the Champions League a lot. I don't want to go back to ever watching football on a Thursday ever again.
Trust me, I'm tired of 555s. I'm tired.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what will happen. I'm very worried in a lot of respects, but I think there is also a lot of cause for optimism.
I would say this as well. And my last question: do you think we can be really successful, like back to winning Premier Leagues under Kroenke, as long as he's at the helm?
I'm not going to say no, but I'm not expecting anything. Like if he could change tack, especially because Josh seems to want to be more involved,
or at least by Pete does more PR to look positive and
exactly
at least.
And how far does that PR extend if it means actually giving us some ambition, like from board level, that is. Like, but I mean, the example that it's easy to go for, I think maybe just because they're both American, but you want them to be like FSG over at Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I think I don't follow the NFL, but apparently they're the Rams, aren't they? And they won the Super Bowl. Rams. So they won it 2 years ago, was it?
I'm not too sure, but they're definitely more successful than we've been, and he cares about them more. There's an article in the Athletic today about that stuff, really.
And that fella Sean McVay, I saw talking about Arteta, who's their head coach or whatever they call them in America. But maybe maybe there's something coming from that, in the way that like they can see the value of making their sports teams better.
I just think they don't care, man. I don't think they care.
That's the thing. That's what I mean. Is in the sense of, like, if they see, oh shit, we've won a Super Bowl. This is where we can like that's the value of winning the Super Bowl to us. Like, maybe they will start going, actually,
we can win the
Premier. We're gonna make this a lot bit better too, or at least we're gonna try. Like,
I wish I thought like that, man. But I just see us as, I genuinely think we're just an asset used to secure other shit. Really, like it's from a business proposition. Him taking Arsenal where it's gone is effing fantastic. I can't lie.
Ultimately, you're probably right. And I think we're worth about $1 billion now, aren't we? Or something.
Billion, and he's not put his actual money into this, so he's living. No. And if
he's taking
always have buyers, it's ridiculous.
I think I'm trying to put an optimistic spin on it, because then I can see the Emirates now from my house. I'm thinking I'm going to go back there at some point, and I don't want to just keep thinking I'm just putting money in Kroenke's pocket, and
we are,
and that's what I'm resigned to for the rest of my life, or I'll just stop going. But
oh man,
but
bro. I definitely feel your concerns, man. But I've definitely liked speaking with you. I've liked your opinions. When the season gets going, I'd love to do this again with you.
Definitely.
Let people know where they can find you and follow you.
I'm at Michael Keshani on Twitter. And that's pretty much the bulk of it. I don't do so much writing anymore, but if ever I link back to one of my old pieces, it will just be on there. Like, I do a lot of shit posting, if I'm being honest, but there's occasional bits of attempts at analysis here and there.
Oh, you need to get back to doing the articles, man. I've read a couple of them, man. You're good at your stuff, man. You need to get back.
I appreciate that. Cheers.
Come on, man. But yeah, man, take care of yourself. We'll catch up again.
Thanks very much. Lovely to speak.